Welcome to my channel, USA Battle Zone. Tonight's story isn't just about war. It's about courage, sacrifice, and a single moment that changed everything. A medic, a Navy SEAL commander, and .50 cal Barrett passed from one pair of trembling hands to another in the heat of a battle no one saw coming. This is the story of Corpsman Lila Hayes. Background music. Slow heartbeat mixed with desert wind. She wasn't supposed to be there that day. The mission was a quick recon, nothing more. Team ECHO-3 had moved into a valley near the border, a dust-filled stretch of badland so silent it made the air feel heavy. Lila had been the team's medic for 8 months. She'd patched bullet holes, stopped bleeding, and whispered prayers over dying men. But she'd never fired a weapon heavier than her M4 carbine. That morning, she remembered thinking how blue the sky was. Too blue for war. Then everything changed. Scene 1: the Valley of Fire. The first explosion ripped through the silence. Contact front, 50 meters. The SEAL commander, Captain Rowan Beckett, shouted into the comms. Gunfire erupted from the ridgeline, an ambush, perfectly timed. Echo 3 was pinned down between two rocky outcrops, dust and shrapnel raining down like metal rain. Lila dropped low, her hands already reaching for her med kit. One of the men, Sanchez, was hit in the leg, blood spurting through the torn fabric of his uniform. She crawled forward under fire, bullets cracking the dirt around her. "Stay with me, Sanchez. You're not dying here, not today." Her voice trembled, but her hands didn't. Years of training kicked in, tourniquet high and tight, morphine shot, pressure bandage. The fight raged on above her head. Beckett and 2 others were returning fire, trying to keep the enemy from flanking them. But they were outgunned. And then came the sound. Deep, thunderous, the echo of a heavy machine gun from the ridge. The kind of sound that shakes your bones. Scene 2: the call for air support. "Command, this is ECHO-3, we're taking heavy contact." Beckett shouted into his mic. "We need air support, danger close." Static. Nothing. The valley walls were too steep, comms were dead. Lila's eyes flicked toward the commander. He was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that only comes when you've seen everything and made peace with it. He looked back at her, saw the fear in her eyes, and nodded once. "We'll get through this, Doc." But he didn't believe it. Minutes felt like hours. They were running low on ammo. The sun was bleeding into the horizon, painting everything red and gold, a cruel beauty against the chaos. Beckett reached for his Barrett.50 calories sniper rifle, the beast that could punch through walls. He took position behind a boulder and fired, the recoil shaking dust loose from the rocks. Each shot echoed like a hammer hitting the gates of hell. Boom, boom, boom. Each one a message. We're still here. Then, click, empt. Scene 3: the turning point. Reloading. Beckett shouted, reaching for his pack, but a burst of fire from the ridge slammed into the rock next to him, sending shards flying. One struck him across the face, another lodged in his shoulder. He fell back, blood soaking into his gear. Lila crawled to him instantly. "Sir, you're hit," he grunted. "Just a scratch." It wasn't. His arm was half useless. The Barrett lay beside him, its barrel still smoking. He looked at her. The medic, the one who never wanted to fight, the one whose hands had only ever healed. "Doc," he said, voice low and hoarse. "Take the rifle." She froze. "Sir, I'm a medic." "Not today." His eyes burned through the smoke. "Today you're what stands between us and death. Take it." The weight of the Barrett was shocking. Nearly 30 pounds of steel and recoil. Her fingers barely fit around the grip. She'd never fired one, never even held one properly. But the commander's hand was on hers, guiding her fingers toward the trigger. "Steady your breath. Look through the scope. You see that muzzle flash on the ridge? That's your target. Squeeze. Don't pull." She nodded, her throat tight, her heart slamming against her ribs. The world slowed. The ridge came into focus. Dust, movement, shadows. She squeezed. Boom. The recoil hit her shoulder like a hammer, but the shot was clean. The muzzle flash disappeared. Beckett grinned, blood on his teeth. "Good hit." She fired again, and again. The valley echoed with thunder, each shot carving space between life and death. Scene 4: the fire within. Minutes turned into chaos. The enemy tried to flank left, but Lila adjusted her aim, eyes burning with sweat and dust. Every round she sent downrange felt like defiance. She wasn't just saving them, she was fighting for them. For Sanchez, groaning in the dirt behind her. For Beckett, trying to stay conscious. For every man she'd ever promised she'd bring home alive. "Doc," someone yelled. "They're falling back." She looked through the scope. The enemy was retreating, dragging their wounded into the shadows. Silence. Finally, she lowered the rifle, her body shaking, smoke curling around the barrel. The medic who never wanted to fight had just saved the entire team. Evac came an hour later, the sound of rotors slicing through the evening air. The rescue birds landed hard, kicking up waves of dust. Lila stayed behind until everyone else was loaded up. She made sure Sanchez was stable, patched Beckett's shoulder again, and checked every pulse twice. When she finally climbed aboard, she looked down at the valley. The rifle still lay there, half buried in the sand. Beckett reached out and grabbed her wrist. "Keep it," he said. "You earned it." 2 weeks later, the team was back stateside. The debriefs were long. The medals were quiet. Lila sat in the hospital waiting room while Beckett recovered, staring at her reflection in the window. She wasn't the same. The war had written itself into her. In the ringing of her ears, the ache in her shoulder from the Barrett's recoil, and the memory of that single look Beckett gave her before handing it over. That look that said, "I trust you." And maybe that was what changed her forever. The sun was setting again, this time behind the flag at the base. The team gathered, uniforms crisp, medals pinned. Beckett stood in front of her, his arm still in a sling. "Corpsman Hayes," he said, his voice steady. "On behalf of the United States Navy and your brothers in arms, thank you." He handed her a small black case. Inside, the silver star. But it wasn't the metal that made her hands tremble, it was the small engraving inside the lid. "For the one who fought to heal." Scene 8. The memory that stays. Years later, Lila would still wake up some nights to the echo of that rifle. She'd see the ridge, the smoke, the flash of sunlight on metal. But instead of fear, she felt something else, the weight of purpose. She'd gone to war to save lives. And when the world fell apart, she'd done exactly that, not just with medicine, but with courage. She kept the Barrett locked away in her garage, untouched. But sometimes, when the wind was right, she swore she could still hear it, that single shot that turned a medic into a warrior. Outro. Soft, emotional music rising. Studio microphone narrator, voice softening. Some stories are told in medals and after-action reports. Others are written in the heartbeat of a soldier who never expected to fight, but did anyway. Lila Hayes didn't go to war to take lives. She went to save them. But when the time came, when the commander fell and the team was one trigger pull away from being lost, she became something more. Not a hero, a guardian. Because sometimes, courage isn't about charging forward. It's about standing your ground when everyone else is falling. Final scene. Cinematic ending. Fade to black. Camera. Slow zoom on the Barrett rifle resting in the sand. Music. Single violin note fading into silence. Studio microphone narrator, final words. Thank you for watching USA Battle Zone. If this story moved you, if it made you feel the heartbeat of those who serve, then honor them the best way you can. Like, comment, and subscribe, because every story like this deserves to be remembered. And somewhere out there, another medic might be picking up her rifle right now.